Orange County Fire Rescue.
So to respond for a dead person at SeaWorld. A whale has eaten one of the trainers.
Any blood in the water or anything like that?
Well, part of it, she was scat, and there was no blood.
Pull her away. How did he let go of the...
He didn't.
He never let go of the
arm?
The arm.
He swallowed it.
He swallowed it?
The domestication of killer whales for entertainment has been seen as a family-friendly corporation for the past 50 years. However, it has caused the tragedy of multiple fatalities and psychological damage to the whales and trainers. This has caused the triumph of numerous regulation laws for marine parks all across the nation. Starting in 1965, orca captivity became known to the public when Ted Griffin made history. Griffin was a former aquarium owner and entrepreneur, and was the first man to ever swim with the killer whale. He is best known for capturing and performing with Namu, who was the first whale to perform for the public, which struck national phenomena in the late 1960s.
I guess it was bound to happen. There was bound to be a song written about Namu the whale, and a rock and roll song at that.
Take it, Namu.
During this time, science and the public knew very little on the behavior of these animals, causing much fear to strike not only more protest, but more orca shows and captures.
We are only after the little one. And the little one is, you know, a big animal still, but I was told because of shipping costs, that's why they only take the little ones. Just like kidnapping a little kid away from her mother. Everybody's watching, what can you do? It's the worst thing I can think of, you know, I can't think of anything worse than that. Now, this really sounds bad, but when the whole hunt was over, there were 3 dead whales in the net. And so they had Peter and Brian and I cut the whales open, fill them with rocks, put anchors on their tail, and sink them.
In 1983, a male whale was captured in the North Atlantic. They later named him Tilikum.
An employee is dead after an encounter
at a Canadian park called Sealand of the Pacific.
Seen in this home video, rescuers used a huge net to try.
Workers' efforts were hindered by the agitated whales.
Orange County's sheriff deputies have identified the 27-year-old man found dead in a killer whale's tank at SeaWorld.
Don Brancho. Don is the senior trainer here at Shamu Stadium.
Throughout his time at SeaWorld, Tilikum ended up being the biggest whale in captivity, but that wasn't exactly what he was known for. He ended up taking the lives of 3 people throughout 30 years. Don Brancho was Tilikum's 3rd and final victim in 2010. Tilikum mutilated and scalped Don in front of a live audience. This caused national anger, grief, and confusion since Don was so experienced and personally connected with the whale. Her death was seen as a global tragedy and changed the industry of SeaWorld forever.
For 25 years, don't you think you'd get a little irritated, aggravated, maybe a little psychotic?
After the incident, and because of the media's involvement with the Brancho case, SeaWorld was sued by OSHA for violating numerous worker protection laws and was ruled to pay $3 million in fines and to end trainers being in the water without a physical barrier between them and the whales. This led to the other changes of the corporation, such as no breeding and more natural and safer environment and shows for the whales and their show companions.
Gave the performance of a lifetime.
Yes, sir, that's our...
In the wild, orca mothers maintain lifelong bonds with their offspring. Due to SeaWorld's financial decisions, they have broken apart more than 25 mother and child bonds, selling the offspring to other parks. Depending on the whale's origin, it speaks at a different frequency than others. Moving orcas at such a young age and putting them with other killer whales in small confinement where they cannot communicate properly causes extreme fatal aggression that is hardly seen in the wild. This puts not only whales' lives at extremely dangerous risk, but the trainers as well.
safety of the animals, please do not put your hands in the water.
I always felt they could kill you very quickly and very easily, but I never felt that that was their intention or that that was their will, and it was just a matter of listening to them. And sometimes if you didn't listen to them and they were quite frustrated, they would show you in a very dramatic fashion, and not necessarily in a fashion to be violent or harm you, but just in a fashion to say, hey, you need to listen to me at this time.
The conditions these whales are kept in has caused many physical and psychological effects, including excess vomiting due to dietary differences, self-harm by banging their heads against the concrete walls, and lingarthy or logging, which is floating lifelessly at the bottom or top of the pool. This is extremely abnormal to the wild behavior, which is never to stop moving.
3 hours now, and he hasn't moved.
They are also known for beaching themselves at hours at a time.
And we put it in a magnetic resonance imaging scanner. What we found was just astounding. They've got a part of the brain that humans don't have. A part of their brain has extended out right adjacent to their limbic system. The system processes emotions. The safest inference would be these are animals that have highly elaborated emotional lives.
I attempted to contact SeaWorld, but each time I was denied. For the past 50 years, SeaWorld has provided educational shows for millions of people all across the U.S. However, the behind-the-scenes treatment and captivity of killer whales and other cetaceans at their facility has brought upon the very soon ending of orca captivity. Tragically, almost 200 lives have been lost. SeaWorld is now learning from their mistakes and is changing their shows and corporation drastically. They have taken upon many new safety regulations for trainers and audiences. They are also triumphantly expanding and changing their orca performances for a larger and more natural environment space and show. Today, marine biologists are trying to remove the orcas still in captivity to what is called a sea pen, instead of releasing them into the wild. These pens would be used for education of animals' actual behaviors as opposed to the circus acts at SeaWorld.
There we go. Begin this half hour with the death of Tilikum, the SeaWorld orca best.
Tilikum the orca has died after more than 2 decades at SeaWorld Orlando.
SeaWorld San Diego will bring its theatrical orca show to a close after years of criticism and controversy.
Trainers are no longer allowed to swim with the whales. And just this week, SeaWorld said the theatrical orca shows will soon be replaced by an educational presentation in a more natural setting, according to SeaWorld Vice President Brian Morrow.
SeaWorld is essentially saying, okay, we are going to stop breeding these killer whales in captivity. Well, once you stop the breeding program, then you pretty much have announced that you are ending the whole program of using these animals. SeaWorld has been listening, and we are changing. Society is changing, and we're changing with it. SeaWorld is finding new ways to continue to deliver on our purpose to inspire all our guests to take action to protect wild animals and wild places. Now,
it's time to stop forcing the animals to perform in basically a circus environment.
The multi-billion-dollar corporation that makes its money through the exploitation of orcas.
They're not suitable to have in captivity.
The whales are really bored. You deprive them of all this environmental stimulation.